Suppose you are not required to attend the workshop today. Name at least 2 to 3 things you would have not learned. One of the biggest things I learned was that you could put your hands down when you aren't saying anything. It seemed like such a simple idea, but it was hard to remember because it almost felt rude and disconnected. Another thing I learned from listening was about the different ways they can help ease communication, such as communication cards. I think it is fascinating that they are trying to find ways to make things easier for both them and the people around them. Number 2. Describe the dress attire you wore and how it could have changed. Also, was there any other SSPs/interpreters attire who you would have considered an issue? I didn't realize that wearing a dark purple jacket may have affected some of the deafblind individuals. For interpreting, we are always told to wear dark colors that contrast with your skin, and so I figured it would be the same for this. Thankfully, no one was bothered by it, but I had to be aware and see if they were. Some of the other attire I thought might be an issue were people wearing white shirts or shirts that were really low cut. I thought that white shirts may reflect light or be a distraction. Number 3, what were the different types of interpreting you did today? Describe how they were different. I did all 4 kinds of the interpreting mentioned above. I used tactile and copy signing together. Thankfully, the lady I worked with for most of the day had a light touch. Tactile was a new experience for me, and it amazes me that this woman was able to understand what I was signing into her hands. The copy signing of the deafblind speaker got hard at times because he was fast. It was easier to copy sign either Tina or Royce. I only did a little bit of low vision and tracking, which were both towards the end of the day. Low vision was more of what I was used to because you weren't sitting against another person. I only used tracking with one gentleman, and it was really difficult because he made you sit beside him and lean over since he could see best out of his peripherals. Number 4. What were some of the demands you were feeling? How did you overcome those? And if you didn't, why not? At first, I felt weird basically straddling this woman. You have to get used to the fact that you have to be in someone's personal bubble. As the day went on, those thoughts went completely out the window. I was becoming exhausted and felt like my consumer wasn't getting all the information she needed to get, and that made me really frustrated with myself. At one point, I just had to take a second for myself and realize that they understand that I'm a student and that I'm trying my best. Number 5, were there any habits or behaviors your deafblind consumer exhibited that you had to deal with? Sometimes the consumer would be reminded of something during the presentation and would tell a story of her own. During that time, though, my team and I would usually just let her continue talking. Number 6, describe all the responsibilities you had while working at this workshop. Out of those, which was your favorite and least favorite? I really only had to be an SSP while the presentation was going on. Once I had to guide my consumer to the other side of the room, which I think is such a cool thing because someone else puts their trust in you in that moment. I was also a part of a team as well as a consoler to my fellow classmates.
As well as a what?
A consoler. It was an extremely difficult and overwhelming day, but I also feel like I learned so much.
Probably not like that, but
Number 7. Finally, is deafblind interpreting something you would like to learn more about? If so, how will you go about doing that? I think at some point I would like to learn more about deafblind interpreting, but I also think that I want to wait until my interpreting skills are in a better place first. I would probably volunteer for something like this again because I feel that I learn the most and the best by doing it. And then the last little comment was, I must admit, when I got home, I took a 2-hour nap. How did you debrief when you got home? I watched some mindless TV, had dinner at my parents' house, and then spent some time out with friends that night.